Welcome back to the show. As we said, it's time to take care of mom here on the show today, and who better to have in to talk about taking care of your health and moms. And it's great to have you
again.
Thank you. And this is a great topic to have because moms, as TL said at the beginning of the show, they seem to look after everybody else, and sometimes they neglect themselves. Yeah. Have you found that in your experience?
Definitely. You know, what I find is that moms bring their kids in, you know, I'm worried about this, I'm worried about colic or ear infections, and then all of a sudden we realize that, well, a part of the issue is the mom's not feeling so well.
Right.
And so she's not thinking, well, this is happening and this is why the baby's experiencing this. So.
Well, we're specifically talking about some moms that have just had a baby, right? Is that,
well,
or,
you know what?
All moms
Let's
in
cover
general, all women, or
all moms, you know,
moms,
because a lot of times women will have their baby, and again, their doctor's follow-ups are quite good in that first year, and they're going to the doctor regularly for their child, so their physician may pick up stuff that's happening with them.
Sure.
But thereafter, you know, life gets busy. You know, we were just talking out there about how somebody walked into somebody's house and it was really, really chaotic, and she thought twice about whether she was ready to have kids or not right away.
Right.
Okay,
so,
right.
You know, so life gets busy, and you know, a person just might not think that some things might be going on in their own health.
Well, let's talk about some of those common health changes that mom experienced. You were and if you don't get Dr. Joelle's newsletter, you've got to go to optihealth.ca and get on there, because the information that you guys put out, and well, you do this yourself, is unbelievable. So one of the experiences is anemia.
Yes.
Explain what that is exactly.
Well, okay, so anemia is having a low hemoglobin and iron count. And basically, if we think about when a woman actually menstruates, she loses about 30 cc's or mLs of blood per month. But when she has a baby, it increases to 500. And with a C-section, it's 1,000. And if you put 3 births back to back in, you know, a 5-year period, well, then again, you're going to see that you have the propensity to lose that overall store of iron. So really, 91% of all Canadian women between the age of 16 to 64 don't actually take in enough iron.
Okay.
So that's really, really important.
How can we replenish that or take care of that?
So really what we want to do is think about our nutrition. Let's start with that. And take in iron-rich foods. The C vegetable category is extremely high. And in actual Korean tradition, the grandmother would come and make a seaweed soup because it's so rich in iron and B vitamins, etc.
Okay.
Now, if you're not into seaweed, well,
let's be honest, not everyone is, right?
Red meat is also going to have a good amount. Spinach is also going to have a good amount. If your physician deems it necessary to supplement, well, then there's really good supplement sources that are available that are food-based. And that's really what you want to choose.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
Next one, and we've talked about this, I think we've touched on it before, but it's a separate category all on its own, adrenal changes.
Yes.
What happens there?
Well, okay, so very simplistically, your baby's waking up at night, you're waking up multiple times to feed, and that's important. But over a long period of time, the adrenal gland, which sits on top of your kidneys, produces hormones. The hormones produced are epinephrine, norepinephrine, cortisol, female hormones, and over time that gland begins to be tired. When that happens, a person can start experiencing fatigue, unrestful sleep. So you're waking up in the morning, you've had 8 hours sleep, you're napping, you're just not feeling refreshed. You're craving salt and sugar is the big thing, because your body's looking for minerals. It's also looking for quick energy.
Right.
And so those are the very common things that can be related to adrenal fatigue.
So how do you counter that then?
Well, one of the first things that you want to do is you want to look at your intake of nutrition and take a look, are you drinking coffee to try and stay awake? Because that's going to have a counterproductive effect. So I'm noticing here that you're using chlorophyll in water, and that's a really awesome way to regenerate your nutrition. You can also add a protein powder, which is a very simple thing to do. You know, you just simply add water to it and away you go. If you want it for breakfast, you might want to choose a concentrate form of protein. If you want it for maybe an in-between snack and building up your energy, maybe an isolate for quick energy source would be
Is this something you could hide in a smoothie?
Yeah.
Like just throw a spoonful in a smoothie and you're good to go?
Exactly, yeah. We live in an environment where people grab coffee to regenerate their energy.
Right.
But a person could simply take a teaspoon of liquid B complex or a protein or one of the chlorophyll drinks to just help re-energize.
We do. I think we automatically grab for caffeine.
We do.
It's true.
Yeah.
Guilty as charged.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Sorry, I was going to say, I think we've talked about this next one as well before on the show, but thyroid changes. This is probably one of the most common things, that happens.
And sometimes what happens is women mistake their hair falling out. When a woman is pregnant, her hormones rise. And then after the pregnancy, all those hormones fall off, and thus we typically tend to get hair loss.
Okay.
So that's normal, but that can actually cascade into the drop in hormones and the fatigue over time. The backup organ to the adrenal gland is the thyroid. And the thyroid steps in, and if it's fatigued over time, it can eventually become inflamed, which we call thyroiditis. It could become hyperthyroid, where you get all the symptoms of fight and flight. You're running, you're anxious, you're nervous, you're losing weight, there's maybe diarrhea. Or hypothyroid, where everything is sluggish. You know, you're having difficulties losing weight, you're fatigued, you might be constipated, hair and skin changes. One of the most common symptoms that we see is actually reducing hair at the lateral sides of the eyebrows.
Okay.
And that can be a thyroid symptom.
What's first there, Dr. Joelle, because you mentioned about adrenal changes and sort of connected with thyroid changes. What would you see first, and does one sort of cause the other?
Yes, that's a great question. Typically, we first see the nervous system change, which leads into the adrenal gland, which leads into the thyroid.
Okay. So once you're into the thyroid, then you need some help.
It's a longer, it's a more chronic health concern.
So you mentioned hyper and hypo.
Yes.
How do you find that balance in between the two?
Well, if you're hyper, you need medical attention. If you're hypo, you need medical attention. But if you're borderline, so again, we're going to talk about labs next month, but the traditional labs look for disease. So when you're way over here, then again, you need medical attention. But if you're within the norm, but yet you have all the symptoms of thyroid, hyper or hypo, well, there are certain things that can balance the thyroid. So again, when we get back to the sea vegetables, kelp is actually really high in iodine, and that can help fuel the conversion to your active thyroid hormone. The antioxidant selenium is really important because selenium acts like a cofactor or a transitional moderator for T4 to turn into T3, which is your active thyroid hormone. So the supplementation with some of these nutrients can be very beneficial.
I'm getting some seaweed after this. And kelp is seaweed, right?
Kelp
could you
is
not?
seaweed.
Could you not hide that too? Like some people, obviously, you mentioned earlier, we joked about it, but I mean, that's probably something you can throw in a smoothie and you won't even taste it. You don't have to worry about it.
Actually, you know, for example, this particular protein powder, it actually has green in it. So it actually has the spirulina. It has some of the barley grass, the Japanese chlorella. So it has nutrients that are going to be high in all of that.
Next one, we've again briefly talked about this one before, but I think it's really common, is the estrogen dominance.
Yes. So to help people understand what that means is very simplistically, when your hormonal cycle is flowing well, you're having a good menstrual cycle and you're flowing about every 28 days. When you start getting, and there's two phases of menstrual. There's the first phase, which is day 0 to day 14, which is the follicular phase, and the second phase, day 14 to your menses, is the luteal phase. Normally, your estrogen should be higher in the first phase than progesterone, and in the second phase, from about day 15 to day 22, progesterone should be higher in order for all body functions to function well. But in our environment, we are exposed to so much estrogen that what happens is we get estrogen being higher than progesterone. And one of the first symptoms is irregular periods, heavy clotted periods, PMS, breast tenderness, infertility, headaches, cravings, weight distribution around the hips and thigh area. All of those are signs of higher estrogen.
So where are they getting the higher estrogen from?
Well, okay, a friend was telling me that it takes half the amount of time to produce a chicken, and that if chickens are actually left out there, they can't walk. because their breasts are so big, because we've super developed them to have for production, for food production.
Right.
So what happens is we're using hormones to do that. Also our plastics, we've now gone
plastic crazy.
Plastic, yeah, exactly. So xenoestrogens are a chemical structure that's in plastics that looks similar to the body to estrogen. So it binds to the receptor site, and we have all these symptoms of estrogen.
Unbelievable.
Wow. Yeah.
Is there anybody more knowledgeable? Yeah, every time you come in, and you know what? We didn't even get through the entire list, but people can go to the OptiHealth website and find out more information.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah. Thanks so much for being
Thank
here.
you.
Really appreciate it.
You on the show.
All you moms out there, take care of yourself. If you find any of these signs, and as I said, visit www.optihealth.ca, and there's some questions you should be asking yourself in the latest newsletter. Don't go anywhere. We're going to introduce you to a wonderful hip-hop artist right after the break.
That was really good.
Thanks. It's a lot of information.